This podcast is sponsored by Active Skin Repair, a skin health company helping people heal with natural, non-toxic, medical-grade ingredients. Active Skin Repair is something that is a staple now in our family health cabinet. My son is into mountain biking now. He's into ninja courses, and so he's getting a lot of scrapes and like burns when he like slides down the spider wall. So anytime that happens, I just go to the cabinet, we take out the Active Skin Repair, spray it on, and he's feeling pretty good. That's because Active Skin Repair uses a molecule called hypochlorous acid. When applied to the skin, the molecule works by mimicking the natural immune response to cleanse, soothe irritation, reduce inflammation, and support healing. It's pretty cool. So visit www.activeskinrepair.com to learn more about Active Skin Repair and to get 20% off your order, use code NOGUILT. That's activeskinrepair.com, and to get 20% off your order, use code NOGUILT.
It is loosely based on an actual murder in my family. There's just long been this story that my family's talked about. And because we're Italian American, my family is filled with storytellers and liars. And they have always talked about how my great-great-grandmother, Lorenza Marsala, was murdered in Sicily before she could join the rest of her family in America.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by the lovely Brie Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you?
We have a wonderful guest for you today. I've looked forward to interviewing her for a long time. And Brie, wouldn't you say she was fun? She was
an
lovely.
absolute delight. She was an
Yes.
I loved it. I loved the candor. I loved the energy, the tone. The only thing I will say is that it had a little more language than we typically have. So that is it. But I love it.
Which I have to say, I have to be totally upfront
That's how
about
I
this.
normally
Guys,
talk.
like Brie and I, this is how Brie and I normally talk.
We edit ourselves for the podcast because
We know you're probably listening with kids, and
Exactly.
we edit a little. So just forewarning, do this one on your headphones if you're not comfortable with your kids hearing some language and frank talk.
Yeah, it was completely appropriately used. So, yeah,
Yes,
but that
it
was
was
it.
all lovely and wonderful. She's our
And I
people.
love her
Yep.
energy. Like you finish listening to this episode and you're gonna walk out like, yeah, let's do it.
So, if you have heard of the book, The Sicilian Inheritance, we have the author today on. And if you have not heard of the book, The Sicilian Inheritance, go get it. It is like a great beach read novel that I can't even talk about. Like, the ending is just remarkable. You're going to feel such like a little love bubble, like I described. It's such a love bubble and such hope and such wonderful stuff.
Yeah, she's got 2 books you need to get. So, not only The Sicilian Inheritance, what other book do they need to get? Because we're gonna make a movie.
Oh, Charlotte Walsh Likes to Win. So let me
Mhm.
introduce her and then we'll get in. We're just so excited for you to hear this. Jo Piazza is the national and international bestselling author of The Sicilian Inheritance, We're Not Like Them, You're Always Mine, Charlotte Walsh Likes to Win, The Knockoff, and How to Be Married. Her work has been published in 10 languages in 12 countries, and 4 of her books have been optioned for film and television, which she actually tells us some of the backstory
Yeah.
in this interview about one of those. Joe's podcasts have garnered more than 25 million downloads and regularly top podcast charts. An editor, columnist, and travel writer, her work has appeared in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, New York Magazine, Marie Claire, Glamour, and many other publications. She lives in Philly with her husband, Nick Astor, and her 3 feral children.
I love that.
And we hope you enjoy our conversation with Joe. You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. Joe, I'm super excited to have you here. We first met a long time, like 20 months ago now that you said your baby was born in Mom 2.0. And I think you're hilarious. I think you're incredibly hilarious. And I love looking at all your IG stuff and everything you say about tradwives. And not only are you hilarious, but you're an extremely gifted writer. So there you go. There's all my fangirl stuff for
My
you
God.
right now. So welcome to the
On a
podcast.
platter, on a beautiful platter, here you go.
On a that was on a really nice platter, and you know what? I love compliments, so that was
I love
great.
it. It's like feed it to me, feed it to me.
Totally. I mean, I'm actually so sick of faux humility these days. Like, now when people say nice things to me and I'm like, "You're right. I am
You're
funny."
right. I love that. That is something that I have had to learn myself over the years because actually in high school, one of my friends complimented me and it was like, no, no. And she looked me straight in the eyes and she's like, Joanne, just say thank you. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Just
thank you.
say, "Thank you."
Thank
Yes.
you. Just say thank you.
Mhm.
And from there, I have always just said thank you, no matter how uncomfortable it's made me feel. Because I think as women, we're like taught to like
To be
push that
humble.
away,
To be
be
Totally.
humble.
humble.
Totally, and men don't feel this way. Like, I looked at my husband the other day and I was like, "Oh my god, you are looking, like, so fit." And he's like, "I know." And I'm
I
just like, "Yeah, exactly." And the only reason he's looking fit is that he caught hand, foot, and mouth from our kids,
Oh
and
my
oh
god, I
god.
know how
he
that is, and he hasn't eaten
uh-huh,
in, like,
uh-huh.
weeks.
He didn't eat for a week because he got the mouth sores, and so he didn't eat for a week, and because he's a man, he immediately lost, like, 17 pounds, whereas, I could work out every day and
Not
eat
eat, and
eat air and yeah,
right?
And still, like,
yeah,
gain a few pounds.
yeah,
It's how it
exactly.
is. It's
It's
not
how it
fair.
is. It's my
Hormones, I
it's
say.
my hormonal perimenopause body, and I
Oh
just have
my
to accept it.
god. I hate that. Yeah, been going through the perimenopause as well, like, first just thought it was crazy, and now I'm just
Yeah.
like, life is so unfair. It's
It's
so unfair.
so unfair, but yeah, but no, my husband will take a compliment, as will every man who's ever existed, and we need to learn to take it. So thank you for
They'll
those.
be
Thank
like, "Yes,
you.
you're
Yes.
welcome. You're welcome." Let's get into your book, the newest book, The
Yeah.
Sicilian Inheritance, because first of all, it made me wanna go to Italy
Oh,
and to
good.
Sicily,
Good.
just like I wanna call it, like, the lusciousness of all the surroundings, like, you wrote about, but also the murder element in the whole thing and the conspiracy, and this was based on your own family history. So
Yeah.
I'm super curious to know, what did you find out in your family
Oh
that
my
you then
gosh.
chose to write this book?
So much. So much. And I love the way that you just described it, and I'm happy that it made you wanna go to Sicily because that's one of my goals. I mean, I set out with Sicilian Inheritance to write this delicious adventure. I want people to be hungry. I want you to crave incredible Sicilian food and to want to book a trip to Sicily. The New York Times
Achieved.
yeah,
I was gonna
thank
say,
you.
right now you've
Wow.
achieved it. I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah,
lasagna."
achieved it.
The New York Times reviewer, which I mean, it was an honor to have it reviewed in the Times, but, they said 2 things that were amazing. 1, they compared me to John Updike, which is so fucking hilarious. I mean, I like now I'm like, I will
Never
talk
read John Updike, honestly, so
I know, and I will say that
it's
forever. Like, I'll be fighting with my husband, and I'll be like, "Do you remember the time that the New York Times compared me to John Updike?" And he's like, "Shut up." And I'm like, "I'm gonna tattoo that on my ass." But more importantly, they said it made them wanna book a trip to Sicily, and I'm like, "Excellent, goal achieved." Like, that is all that I want you to do. But it is loosely based on an actual murder in my family. There's just long been this story that my family's talked about. And because we're Italian American, my family is filled with storytellers and liars. And they have always talked about how my great great grandmother, Lorenza Marsala, was murdered in Sicily before she could join the rest of her family in America. And a lot of my relatives didn't even know her name. They were just like, your great grandmother, your great great grandmother. I mean, they couldn't even get the greats right. But like they held on to this family lore, this family story. There were a lot of theories out there that she was murdered by the mafia, that she
Oh.
was murdered because she was a witch. But I mean, I just think that those were more self-serving than anything else. And I became fascinated by this after I had my daughter because I was really just interested in why don't we know more stories about the women in our family? We talk about the men. We talk about the
Mhm.
men who came over and started a new life here in America, but we didn't talk about the woman who was left behind. And that's what really inspired the Sicilian Inheritance. And so, as much as I packaged it as a delicious, adventurous beach read, which it is
it is.
also a story about women's ambition and agency and motherhood, and what are the stories that we tell about women, and what are the stories that we pass down.
See,
Interesting.
I love it so much, and, like, I hesitate talking more about it because, like, the real impact is in the ending, and I don't wanna
Mm.
ruin the ending for everybody, so I'm going to, like, phrase my questions very carefully
Yeah,
in
yeah.
this because I love how you describe we don't talk about the women and their ambition,
No.
because so often I feel when talking about, like, our grandmother's generation, our great-grandmothers, it's like, "Oh, they were so selfless for their family. They put their family first."
Mhm, 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 mhm.
When it seems so different than how our lives are currently, like, I
True.
have a disconnect on how our grandmothers could so and so put their families first, and we are living in this world where I just feel this rage if I don't get the time for myself and I don't get my needs met. And so your book and describing I'm horrible with names in books and remembering it. What is the grandmother's name in the
Oh,
book?
Serafina, Serafina, yeah.
Serafina.
Mhm.
Serafina.
Ooh, I
So
love that. I can see your hair like blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
the way you describe Serafina in the book and how she was like studying health and like the village doctor, basically,
Mhm.
that was a woman that I could relate to that I have never heard a story like that of the past before. Was that story based on like your kind of conjectures on what it may have been like? Or did you dig up stuff about your grandmother?
No, it was fully based on conjecture. When I decided to write this as a novel, I decided it would be fully fiction. I did not investigate what actually happened to Lorenza until the book was written. I did do academic research into the time period. I read a lot of
Mhm.
research papers, worked with a lot of professors who had studied women during this great migration from Sicily. And the one thing that I learned was that when the men did leave Sicily to come to America, entire towns were left to women, and that women did take the men's jobs, and that many of them learned to read and to write for the very first time. And that was a very powerful thing. It was this strange kind of feminist moment in Sicilian history that only a few academics had written about. I had certainly never heard this. And
Mhm.
we're not going to give away the ending of the book, but
Which is
that's
so good and everyone needs to read it
thank
because you're just like, your
you.
heart will
Thank
be
you.
full, full.
It's a
Yeah.
banger. It's a real banger
Yeah.
of an ending, and but I knew. That's the only thing I knew, and this gets into the writing process in the weeds just a little bit, but I don't outline. I fly by the seat of my pants when I write,
Mm.
and so I sit down every day. I usually when I'm not on a deadline like I'm on right now, I write 1,000 words a day, and right now I'm writing 1,500. But I do, I fly by the seat of my pants. I think there's a lot of magic that happens in that. I think characters and ideas just kind of come to you, but I knew the ending. I just didn't know how we were gonna get there.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I really, really like what you said about historical fiction. I, for a long time, have not been a historical fiction reader because I think it often paints a false version of women in the past.
Mm.
And with
Interesting.
Sicilian Inheritance, we're getting a lot of people saying, I don't like historical fiction, but I love this. Because we often see women in a past timeline who we turn into saints. We turn them into saints, we turn them into martyrs. We make them
Mhm.
unfun, we make them unsexy, and I wanted Serafina, who was a character from the turn of the century, to be relatable because women had a sense of humor. They had desires, they had passions. Not everyone is speaking in like very proper old world speak. I mean, they make bawdy jokes and talk about poop and and wanna have sex, and, like, I do think that even female writers, historical fiction
Mhm.
writers, do women such a disservice by kind of desexing us in a past timeline because we assume that was humanity really so different back then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my disconnect I have because it does seem like in most historical fiction that humanity was a lot different. And I have to agree with you. I don't think it was. I don't think it could have been that different. We couldn't have evolved like that much as women during that time to have totally different needs now. And something else that you delve a lot into, especially on your Instagram account. So, switching gears a little bit from the Sicilian Inheritance, which everyone needs to go get. If you're listening right now, get it on like Audible or get it at like hardcover.
We've got the
Mine is
link.
signed by Jo, which I'm very excited about. Uh, but I want to get into these tradwives that you talk about in your Instagram,
Totally.
and let's get into it right after this. Here at No Guilt Mom and in our balance program, I am always talking about the importance of healthy habits. That is what gives you the energy to actually face all the stress you have as a mom. And one thing that I'm obsessed about is drinking enough water. Staying hydrated is so important. And that's why you've got to check out AquaTrue because its proprietary purification technology removes so many harmful contaminants, including PFAs, which are those forever chemicals, which can potentially lead to adverse health effects like cancer or liver toxicity. And the cool thing is the filters are long lasting. They last from 6 months to 2 years. AquaTrue comes with a 30-day money back guarantee and even makes a great gift. Today, our listeners receive 20% off any AquaTrue purifier. Just go to aquatrue.com. That's AQUATRU.com and enter code NGM at checkout. That's 20% off any AquaTrue water purifier when you go to aquatrue.com and use promo code NGM. Losing weight can be really hard. And when it comes to prioritizing your health and feeling confident and strong, it can be really difficult to know where to start. I mean, I have been on so many things and it is hard and you lose your confidence. Hers is changing women's healthcare by providing access to GLP-1 weekly injection. Hers connects you with a medical provider who will work with you to determine your best treatment option. And through Hers, weight loss plans are more affordable, with GLP-1 injections starting at $199 per month with a 12-month subscription. Start your free online visit today at forhers.com/NGM. That's forhers.com/NGM for your personalized weight loss treatment options. Forhers.com/NGM. Not available everywhere. Hers weight loss includes compounded products which are not approved nor verified for safety or effectiveness by FDA. Prescription products require a provider consultation. Restrictions apply. Actual price to customer will depend on product and subscription plan purchase. Back to school season is officially here. And if you're struggling like I am, trying to get everything done, I have one thing that you can cross off your list, and that is grocery shopping and meal planning. Because HelloFresh can provide each of those for you, and they handle most of the prep too. Their meals are absolutely delicious. And if you have kids complaining about what you're cooking for dinner, you can solve that family dinner dilemma because HelloFresh has a line of kid-friendly family options. We had this delicious corn quesadilla that my kids absolutely loved.
And Green Chef and Every Plate, they are now owned by HelloFresh. Now, with a wider array of meal plans to choose from, there is something for everyone.
I have to mention for a limited time, kids eat free. They eat free. So go to HelloFresh.com/NGM kids to unlock this exclusive offer. One free kids meal per box for 2 months while your subscription is active. That's free kids meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/NGM kids.
HelloFresh, it's America's #1 meal kit.
So, tradwives is actually something that you brought to my forefront. I had no idea they were a thing until you mentioned it and you put this account on your Instagram. Can you give everybody a kind of rundown on what a tradwife is?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been covering internet culture for better or worse for 4 years, which is shocking to me because 4 years ago, I wanted to create a podcast called Under the Influence that was a deep dive into influencers. At the time, I had a colicky baby. I can't believe that colicky baby is about to be 5 years old, but she didn't sleep, and so she would only sleep if I was rocking her all night long. My only appendage that was free was my thumb, and so I was scrolling Instagram and constantly being served these perfect seeming mom influencers who were all trying to sell me something, whose life looked insanely perfect, and I hated them and loved them, and they were aspirational, and I also wanted to drop kick my phone every time I looked at them.
Right.
And so I did what I always do when I'm confused about something. I reported the hell out of it. And I thought that I was just gonna be puncturing the veil and exposing these women, and instead, really discovered the $16 billion creator industry, where a lot of things are smoke and mirrors, where a lot of people are selling you fantasies, but where a lot of women are also creating media brands and are entrepreneurs because the corporate career world is toxic
Mhm.
for women and for
Mm,
mothers.
mhm.
So this is the other path. And I had a lot of feelings about it. I thought this was going to be 8 episodes. We are now on episode 150 of Under the Influence. We are now 2 episodes a week, and we dive into everything about being a woman in the world, but particularly how social media impacts our lives because social media is media now, for
Mhm.
better or worse. And,
Yep.
mainstream news pretends that that's not the case, and they're wrong and they're dying. So I've really been following this recent trend of the hashtag tradwife, and it's been picking up steam in the past. I mean, it's been around for about 2 years. It's really picked up steam this year. I don't think that we can divorce the hashtag tradwife
Mm,
situation from conservative forces also taking over politics in our
mhm,
Yeah.
country. They're very, very tied together. In
Mhm.
fact, we know that a lot of the tradwife themes are boosted on Instagram by various conservative lobbying groups who want to promote this idea of a quote unquote traditional marriage. And now I do like to say when I talk about this, I am not talking about what we often refer to as stay at home moms.
mhm.
Right, because
That's
there
a
is a distinct difference there.
huge difference.
Yeah.
Number one, I hate the word stay at home mom. I don't know who created it. I say this enough that I should find out who created it, but it was
Mhm.
clearly a man because who the fuck is
Yeah,
staying? No one
yeah,
is
totally.
staying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, I'm willing to put money on that.
Yeah, it
Yes.
makes it sound like it's a vacation
It
of
makes it
sorts.
sound like it's a vacation, and we know that it is not.
Yeah.
And so, when I'm talking about tradwives, this has nothing to do with the mothers who are working inside the home, who are the CEOs of their household, who are doing labor at home. This is a very particular thing where a woman is kind of cosplaying a false nostalgia for a different time. We see a lot of women dressing up in 1950s sitcom outfits, Donna Reed, June Cleaver, Betty Draper on steroids, for a vision of America that never truly existed outside of the television,
Right.
or more of a back to the land, little house on the prairie, homesteading, caring for your 9 to 12 children,
Oh, God.
It's
you
like
know,
but it's also unsustainable what I see them doing, like, they do cosplay and
It's
dress up,
cosplay.
and
It's yes, they're creating a fantasy for a
Mhm.
brand in order to make money off of your eyeballs watching them. I don't believe that anyone truly believes all of this. And the issue with the tradwives is not even the costumes or the cosplaying of poverty whilst living a little house on the prairie fantasy. It's the fact that they are touting submission to their husbands. They're giving up their agency. They're touting what they call traditional gender roles. And what they're referring to as traditional is the man is the boss of the family, the man is the head of the household, the man is the ultimate and all power flows through him. It's a very conservative Christian patriarchal message is what it is.
mhm,
And I do think a lot of these brands, and I don't even say a lot of these women because we're talking about a brand when we talk
Mhm.
about
Yeah.
this on
yeah, they're making
Instagram.
money off their accounts.
They're
Mhm,
making money by selling you this kind of fantasy. A lot of it is very pretty in a very simply, superficially aspirational way. Where I think it is dangerous is that we know that corporate culture has been toxic for women and mothers. We
Yeah.
know that the girl boss leaning in was incredibly toxic and didn't work for a lot of people because corporate culture
Mhm.
is not created for women. It's created for Don Draper, to go back to Mad Men again and again, which I can over and over.
which I kind of wish that, like, I was a Don Draper, like, I mean,
100%.
he had an alcohol cart right in his office, he got to nap on the couch, like, during the afternoon.
Yeah.
There was all of these great things that even in Mad Men, the women portrayed in Mad Men did not have that luxury. ever.
No,
Ever,
never,
ever.
never. Peggy never even got that. I mean, even
No.
once she became an actual ad executive, I don't think she had her own whiskey cart.
No.
So no,
It'd be
exactly, exactly. I mean,
Did
again,
you
and
watch
it's
Mad Men, Brie?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I
I
agree.
mean, one of the greatest shows ever created, guys, okay? And totally holds up. Totally holds up.
The thing that gets me about the whole tradwife thing is that I have a teenage daughter, and she was saying that all one of her friends wants to do is grow up and bake for her
Yes.
family.
Mhm.
And my daughter's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, what are you thinking?" And she's like, "No, it just looks nice to knit and bake all day long."
It
And I'm
does look
like,
nice.
That's
It
not
does.
what happens."
Yes,
It
right? It
does
looks nice.
look nice,
Yeah.
and this is not to discount baking,
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm. No, I love
Because
baking. I love it.
I I do not. I,
I love
I am
eating
Joanne
after
has a
I
baking.
talent.
yeah, I should not be in the kitchen, full stop, but
Yeah.
this is not to discount any domestic labor. Here's the problem, and this is why I think this is an issue. Young girls, young women are watching this, okay?
Mhm.
And they're like, "Oh, that looks easy." All of these accounts flatten the labor of motherhood. They
Yes.
flatten all of the domestic labor, and so these girls think, "All I'll do is bake all day," and they don't realize the work that goes into being a full-time mother, being a full-time wife, and they may also think, "Oh, it looks nice for a man to support you," but what
Yes.
happens when that man leaves or that man invests in, like, a weird venture and loses all of your money and you have no idea because you have no control of your
'Cause it
Or
happens.
finances.
even the fact
Yes.
that where you deal with the fact that the climate of the relationship changes and then the man sees you as a burden,
Yes,
and
yes,
then
all
you
of
are
these things.
treated as a burden.
All of these things, okay? Like,
Yeah.
we know that is reality, and
Yeah.
so, young women who are watching social media the same way we watched Beverly Hills 90210, and I say this because at 44, I know you guys are slightly younger than I am. At 44, I believe
Oh, no,
everyone is my
dear.
age at
Probably
this point.
slightly older, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's like
I'm
I've reached the age.
42. I'm almost
Oh,
there.
we're the same age.
We're
Yeah,
good.
no, but I've reached the age where I believe everyone is my age, but I was like
I
with
know,
a bunch
right?
of, like, 20-somethings the other day, and they're like, "We're not the same age." And
Oh,
I'm like,
I know. Yeah.
Okay, it's really funny though because I'm seeing, like, these YouTubers with kids
Mhm.
now, and I'm like, "You look really young. Are you old enough to have that child?" And they
Yeah.
are. They're, like,
And
in their 20s,
Well,
and
because
and they
so
again,
are.
I
in
am
our
seeing it.
heads,
I'm
it
seeing it.
was just the 90s, like 20 years ago.
Yesterday.
It was like
And if we
Yesterday.
10,
and if we
15.
wanna take a real squirrel, seeing the high schoolers wait for the bus, they are dressed exactly like we were in the
Oh,
90s.
I know.
Yeah,
Don't
they're
even get me started.
I was walking my dog this morning, and this guy was coming towards me with a Smashing Pumpkins t-shirt on, the same one that was
What?
promoted in the ni No, it's like they have 90s
Oh,
fashion
yeah, my
down.
daughter is
It's like
like,
the
"I need to
trend.
go to this vintage place because they have vintage
Yep.
concert T-shirts," and you're like, "God, the money I
Mhm.
would have made had I kept
They're
all of
called
that."
vintage. They're
They're
called
called
vintage.
vintage. They're
They're
called vintage. Wow.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Well,
Wow.
so far we've talked about a lot, like, with the past, with your grandmother, and then how you write about Serafina, and we talked about kind of what's happening with the tradwife movement and this conservative bent.
Mhm.
Coming up, I wanna talk about present day, and in fact, how it ties to your novel in the past, The Charlotte Walsh Likes to Win,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so we're gonna talk about that right after this.
Why are so many dogs suffering with health issues? Actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation, says she's seen more issues with dogs' joints and odors and health than ever before. And after doing a ton of research, she feels that there's one place we can look to support any dog's health, and that's their food.
So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding your dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on the planet, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. Badlands Ranch also supports the Jason Deebus Heigl Foundation, which has helped rescue thousands of dogs and place them in loving homes. And oh my gosh, Brie, my dog Addie went nuts over this food. I like took it out of the bag and she's immediately like doing all her tricks. She's like, "You want me to spin? You want me to lay down? You want me? Just give it to me."
So go to badlandsranch.com/guilt and order right now, and you're going to get up to 50% off your regular priced order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to Badlands Ranch. That's BADLANDS ranch.com/guilt today.
I think it is so cool to be able to go to a foreign country and be able to speak the language. Like I've learned a little bit of Spanish, a little bit of French, a little bit of German, and just to be able to converse with native speakers, like it makes such a difference. And if you want to do this too, Rosetta Stone has been a trusted expert for 30 years with millions of users and 25 languages offered. It is so convenient. You have fast language acquisition, and they even have speech recognition built in. So it like sees how you pronounce things and like gives you some like feedback, which I totally need whenever I'm learning a foreign language. So don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. No Guilt Mom listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. Visit rosettastone.com/today. That's 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your 50% off at rosettastone.com/today.
Are you overwhelmed by the things that get in the way of you doing what you want to do? Are you looking for ways to simplify life to better align with your values? Do you want to create space in your schedule so you have room for more of the good stuff? Play, joy, relationships, gratitude, and more? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I invite you to check out Edit Your Life, a podcast to help you edit the unnecessary from your life so you have more room to enjoy the awesome. Through episodes with me, Christine Coe, and a range of super smart, compassionate, and thoughtful guests, you'll come away with big picture insights and practical ways to declutter your home, schedule, and mental space without getting bogged down by perfection. I have always believed that small moments and actions matter tremendously. My goal is to help you find agency and space in your life through doable baby steps that will leave you feeling accomplished instead of overwhelmed. Check out Edit Your Life wherever you enjoy your podcasts.
Okay, I have not read Charlotte Walsh Likes to Win, but what I've seen of it, I'm like, that's next on my to be read list.
It needs to be next on your to be read list. I'm gonna say, girls, I decided 2 nights ago after having 3 IPAs, which is essentially having like 20 beers, that we need to get Charlotte Walsh Likes to Win on the bestseller list right now. Because
Yes.
that
Let's make a movement.
I'm making a movement to make that happen
What's our
because
hashtag going to be?
I
Charlotte Walsh Likes to Win?
think it's hashtag She Likes to Win is our
Alright.
hashtag. This book, I mean, I wrote this novel 8 years ago about what it was like for a woman to run for political office, to have ambition, and it is more relevant than ever. And I want everyone to buy this freaking book right now.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm gonna get this book
Yep.
immediately.
Order this book, order it for 3 friends, tell everyone to buy Charlotte Walsh Likes to Win ASAP, such that they're actually probably going to run out of stock and they have to reprint it. And I think that would be amazing.
I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're
Yeah.
recording this right after Kamala is now presumptively the nominee, and this will air in
Yes.
September. So we're
Yes.
hoping that it's still going good.
Mhm.
But
You never know.
tell us, like, what are some of the things in your book that Charlotte Walsh comes across, like running as a female candidate?
Oh my God, guys. I mean, it's just amazing. It is amazing that it still holds up. Like I said, I wrote this book in the wake of 2016, and it was originally supposed to be a satire of what it takes for a woman to run for office. And when I proposed it and when it sold to the publisher, we thought Hillary was going to win.
Yeah.
And
So did a lot of us. I cried
so did a
that
lot of
day.
us.
I
Yeah.
cried.
And in the midst of, the writing, she didn't win, and the world became a satire, and it became less of a satire and more of a character-driven novel about what does it take for a woman to win political office and how hard it is for a woman to win political office. And so in the book, Charlotte Walsh is a tech executive in Silicon Valley who returns to her hometown of Scranton, PA, to run for Senate in Pennsylvania, a state that has still, even 8 years later, not elected a woman to the Senate or to be governor ever. And, it is a book about politics, but it is also a book about a family. Her husband moves out with her. He takes a back seat to her job and her ambitions, and that does not work out well for anyone involved. And we see the behind the scenes of what a political campaign does to a marriage, of how the media treats a woman differently than they treat men. And, I've had a front seat to that. I've covered every election since 2004, and I'm checking. I mean, I'm checking out of full-time political coverage now, mostly because I think I would want to shoot myself in the face.
It's
But
a bit much
Uh-huh.
to swallow.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've been on the front lines of this for a very long time. I'm guilty of covering women candidates differently than I've covered male candidates. I was forced at one point to write an entire screed against Hillary Clinton wearing a goddamn scrunchie, and I hate myself for it. I still think about that all the time. And so Charlotte faces an uphill battle in this Senate race. The media is against her. It's her, even her husband seems like he's against her part of the time. And it's really difficult. And I think I was hoping the book would be outdated, is what I was hoping.
Yeah.
I was hoping that, we would not continue to face this 8 years later. And now we are seeing Kamala being attacked in the exact same way that I wrote in this book as partially satire, right? And I think it's actually worse now. It's astounding to me. The book really holds up. It had been in production for a TV series. Julia Roberts bought the rights to it right after it was published, actually before it was published. And we had a whole writer's room. We had 8 episodes written. Amazon bought it. Julia Roberts bailed because she had a dream that told her not to do it.
Oh God.
Hollywood stars are fucking assholes, okay? But now we've retooled the scripts a little bit, and it's going back out to market again. But the scripts
Sweet.
didn't have to be retooled very much.
Oh,
So like
God.
I know like one of the things to make sure like dealing in unconscious bias land, to make sure that you don't act on unconscious biases, it's good to like know exactly what to look out for. So like
Yeah.
what should we be looking out for in terms of how the media is portraying a woman so we could immediately see it and go like that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's a lot of things in terms of how women are described. Like, really be cognizant of how women's voices are described. That's a big
Mhm.
one. Women are often described as whiny, overly emotional, or brash and scary. When, I mean, literally, they're speaking the same exact way that a man does, but we somehow hear the tones of a woman's voice in a different way than we hear a man's. Women's outfits are constantly
Yep.
critiqued at
And
every
nobody gives a
single
crap what a guy wears.
turn. Nobody gives
The
a
guy could wear
crap.
the same
No,
suit every single day and no
no.
one will say anything.
When I was watching the Biden-Trump debate, all I could think was, "Who's been doing Biden's Botox? Because it looks like shit. Because
Really?
whoever is doing his Botox
Well, obviously not the same person that does Matt Gates.
no, has done
whatever his name
yeah,
is.
exactly.
Right.
Has done a very bad job, and yet we don't cover men like that, but we certainly judge women on their appearance. And
Mhm.
now, I mean, the attacks that we're already seeing from the Trump campaign, we know that they're gonna go after Kamala for not having
Mhm.
children. This is something that
Mm.
we will never attack a man for, 1, not being married, for 2, marrying 3 women and cheating on all of them, or
Exactly.
or
Sorry.
3, for how many children they've had in or outside of wedlock. We will not critique a man's personal life in the way that we will critique a woman's.
Because that has nothing to do with his politics or his policy.
Exactly.
Mhm.
She is already being attacked for it, and that is really the big one. Like, we have to think, I mean, in terms of would you with
Mhm.
everything, would
Yeah.
anyone do this to a man? Would you think this about a man? Would someone write this about a man? And the answer, the majority of the time, is going to be no.
No. No, never. I know. It's like so ridiculous.
Somebody had posted this in social media. I think it was our friend Shayna. But like, can we take a moment and acknowledge that this is probably the only time that we'll ever see the media say that a 50-year-old woman is young?
Yeah.
59, yeah. 59-year-old woman.
59, right? Isn't she
59. Yeah, she's
59? I
59.
know.
Mhm.
Oh, she's so young.
Compared to like the
She's still
80-year-olds.
sprightly. And she is. She is. I
Oh,
mean,
but they
look,
normally like to say that the moment that that a woman hits
yes.
50, she's too old. She needs to be
She's too
bowing
old.
out.
She's too old. She needs to bow out of the world, actually.
Yeah,
You should
yeah.
shut up and drop out of society,
We
girlfriend.
don't have to see you
Oh
anymore.
my
You're just
God.
We don't
ugh.
wanna look at your wrinkled ass
Ugh.
face. And yeah, no, this is the first time in history that someone has referred to a 59-year-old woman as young and vibrant. Vibrant. I think the fact it's very interesting to me because when I was writing Charlotte Walsh. I was focusing heavily on motherhood. I was leaning into that. I was pregnant with my first child while I was in the process of writing it, and really thinking about the fact that we have barely any politicians at all in the world who are currently bearing children. I mean, who are
That's
actively
true.
become female politicians, because,
That's a
a male
lot.
politician isn't doing the work,
Yeah.
but who are actively having babies. I can, count them on one hand. And in the book, Charlotte has young children, and we see her struggling with motherhood on the campaign trail, which is something we do not often see. And we also see her mothering criticized on the campaign
Mhm.
trail. We see her criticized for allowing her husband to step in and help more
Yeah.
with these children. And I think it's going to be very interesting to watch how Kamala is attacked for being a woman without her own biological
Well,
children.
I'm saying right now, I will defend that to the damn death because that is
Yeah,
just freaking
It's
ridiculous.
crap.
Yeah.
But
it's
you have to know
absurd.
it. You have to know it to see it.
Yeah.
And yes.
And I you
Well,
bringing that to light because I don't think I had really thought about that. And now that you say that, I'm like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
all
there's
good.
there's so many takeaways from Charlotte. We're gonna get this on the bestseller list. Everyone buy Charlotte Walsh Likes
Yes.
to Win. I
Yes.
mean, still buy Sicilian Inheritance. Still
Hashtag
get
she
it,
likes
but
to win.
she
I'm
likes to
already
win.
thinking like we should do a book club, Brie, for
Yeah.
No Guilt Mom, like No Guilt Mom book club on the Charlotte Walsh Likes to Win. And
Totally.
Joe, you could come and you could
I'll
talk
come.
about it and like Zoom
100%.
and it'd be
I'm here for
awesome.
this. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Let's
We're
do it.
women. We make everything
Let's do
happen.
it.
Yeah.
This is going
Love
to
it.
blow
Okay.
up.
So what else? What are you excited about, Joe, that's coming up for you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, now our new plan to get everyone to read
Yes.
Charlotte Walsh Likes to Win.
Mhm.
I'm crazily enough still on book tour for Sicilian Inheritance, and I did not expect to be. The book came out in April. I have 5 events planned in September, another 5 in October, a whole reading writing retreat in Vermont that I'm heading up in November.
Ooh.
And I think it's because Sicilian has it's gotten a lot of people excited about reading again. The best thing that I've
Mm.
heard about it is that it got people out of a reading slump, and we want to see vibrant, ambitious female characters who are helping each other. There's no male savior in this book. There's
Mm-mm.
also no fairy or dragon sex, which I think that adult women are kind of sick of.
Oh my God.
That's to the
Capricorn.
Court of Thorn and Roses, Brie. Yes.
Okay.
No.
All right then.
That's huge right now. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, God bless, but it's not my jam, and I think
It's not, yeah.
a lot of people wanna read a grown-up book, but one that is also fun. This is not literary. It is
No.
commercial as all heck, and it is just an easy breezy, fun read. So, I mean, really, my life is all Sicilian Inheritance right now, and, continuing to be the mom to 3 feral children.
And to add on for Sicilian Inheritance, there is sex in a cave in a lagoon, which is
100%.
great.
Sex
Yeah.
in a beach cave. Sex in a
In a
beach
beach cave.
cave.
Go, Brie. God, Brie.
There's also sex in the ruins of an old church in the middle of Palermo, which I don't think gets talked
Oh,
about
wow.
nearly enough, and
Oh.
it's grown-up sex is what it is. It's grown-up, efficient, easy in, easy out, still hot,
Yeah.
still hot, but no one has wings or a magic
No,
I
vagina.
no one
love
has
that.
wings.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
that.
thank you so much, Joe, for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.
I loved this. Thanks, guys.
Okay. So you guys were talking quite a bit about, how corporate America doesn't necessarily lend towards being a mom and being able to support that role. And I wanted to say, like, I was quiet because I was thinking about my own experiences. And I've worked in a lot of different areas, all for the same goal of like early childhood. But so I worked in nonprofits, I've worked for school districts, and I worked for this one charter school system that floored me how their district office was run so corporate. I had never been in a corporate environment like that before. I know that you have, but I hadn't. And it was flooring me the way that things were being done. And this was my experience that fits what you guys were saying to a T. So I remember being in a board meeting and when I first started working there in like the first couple of months because I was in charge of a new program that the school was rolling out. So I'm in this board meeting and they said my name and I'm like, well, actually my last name has changed. It's now it changed from Hall to Tucker.
Mhm.
And one of the VPs, yes, we had VPs by the way in this school
Mhm.
system, which was like, why would you have VPs? But neither here nor there. He looked at me and smiled and said, "Oh, you got married?" And I'm like, "No, the opposite, got divorced." And he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, no, it's actually better this way. So there was that first piece right there, like feeling
Mhm.
pity because I was not married. But I also can understand people thinking that divorce is a bad thing. And in a lot of cases, it is. But then as it went on, the years I was working there and being my best friend, the struggles I had. But
Oh, yeah.
if anything came up where they were like, well, we need this done by next week, or we need you on site at this campus at like 6 a.m. And I'm like, I can't. I have to get my kids to school. They go to school for this school system that has no bus transportation.
Mhm.
So I can't, or I can't stay late for that meeting, or I can't get that project done because you're giving me 12 hours to do it. And it would constantly be, well, can't you just have your husband pick up the kids? Well, can't you just have somebody else make dinner or whatever? And hello, it is only me, and the fact that there was, like, absolutely no consideration. There was, like, 3 or 4 of us that
Mhm.
were single parents, and we all had the same problem. They would say that they were supportive, but then, like, there was no consideration for somebody that had to be the caregiver of their kids. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't there.
Because were they all men? The
Yes,
VPs
it
and
was
stuff, the
all there
bosses?
was one woman VP, but she honestly kinda gave off the exact same vibes, and
Which
all
is
of
kind of
them.
like how women
Yeah.
VPs have to be because they're trying to
Right.
survive,
Exactly.
in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you had so, like, I had to leave there not only because, like, it felt like it was going against my morals, but
Yeah.
also because, like, I was never going to get ahead because I couldn't do the things that they wanted that was only available to somebody that was in a dual parent household that
True.
also wasn't the default parent.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is how it is. I remember being, like, 24 years old working in corporate, and I was working in entertainment industry corporate, which is not, like, artistic or anything like that. It's very money driven. All of the heads were men. They all had either wives at home who took care of, like, the kids. Well, I mean, they had this, like, crazy schedule
Mhm.
where they would have breakfast with a client at 8 a.m., and then they would have lunch with somebody, and then they would go to dinner. So, I mean, these guys weren't getting home until like 9 PM at night, and they're having all their meals outside of the house. And I was like, how would I ever do that with a family? Like, I was thinking of it, and like, I'm not saying all men are like this, but in that career, that is what was expected.
And these
And
aren't one-off stories. These
and these
are
aren't one-off
stories.
stories.
Yeah.
It's what's expected. The women in these careers, they had to get full-time nannies, and they really did not see their kids very much, and they hated it, and they felt so much guilt about it, but they
Mhm.
thought that that was the only way that they could provide for their family in the industry. And many of the women who were in top executive positions were childless. Like, they
Or you
knew they
had kids that were
couldn't
much older,
do
right?
it. Yeah.
That were,
It's
like, done and out of the house.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's completely ridiculous. It's ridiculous what the expectations are in the corporate environment. And like, I think things definitely need to change there. Companies who really succeed know how to embrace this like dual expectation thing. There are so many companies right now started by like millennials or like even no guilt mom. Like, we're never going to
Yeah.
go in the office. We're always going to be work from home because that gives us the most flexibility to deal with whatever arises. Like today, my son's sick from school and I can still continue with a work day because it's from my home office and I'm here at home.
Is
So,
very
yeah.
understanding of that.
Yes, and we're very understanding of it all. Like one of our team members sick with COVID. And are we making her work? No.
Poor
We're
thing.
like, you stay, you rest, you get as much as you can. We got it. Because something else that bothered me, like in teaching, if I was sick as a
Oh
dog, I
my
would still
god.
have to make sub plans.
And you probably got made to feel guilty if you were out for
Hmm.
more than 1 or 2 days. Oh my god, and now with the teaching shortage, it's even worse. Like, "Are you
Yeah,
really
I
that
mean,
sick? Are you really?" I mean,
there
can't you
has to
just
be things
come in?
that change. There
Yeah.
has to be more support given. The teacher
Well,
shortage, oh my gosh, could you imagine if there were 2 teachers per classroom? First of all, you have an adult to bounce things off of and manage the kids.
yeah.
And second, like if one adult is sick, the other adult can easily take over
Yep.
and manage for a few days, you know?
Yep.
It's just there's so much, so
There's
much.
so much. But okay, so so much change that needs to happen. Let's start by making a movement with Joe's book. Charlotte Walsh likes to win. We are going to make it happen.
I feel like No Guilt Mom, first of all, is that movement.
Well, we are, but
That
we're gonna make it. We're
we're
gonna
gonna
bring
do a
Joe in
book
on this
club.
too. We're gonna bring in our second Joe, Joe number 2. in on this.
And honestly, if like you weren't on the No Guilt Mom mailing list by now, I'm so sorry, but you've missed out. We've already started the book club. It's already going, which is
Yes.
why you should probably get on the mailing list right now so you
Yeah.
don't miss these things.
Yeah.
And you could do that just by we have some chat GPT prompts for you that will make your home life easier. It'll plan your grocery list, your meal planning, and everything for your exact family needs. So grab those below, or you can go to balanceformoms.com/prompts, PROMPTS, and grab those. And then you'll be notified on everything. You can hang out with us
Yeah.
who are really cool people. We're cool. We're taking compliments now, and we're cool. And of course we are. Yes.
Yeah, I
just
am
like
pretty
Jo said.
cool. And you know what, Joanne? You are pretty cool. We are pretty
Well,
awesome.
thank you.
We
We're
eat
pretty
it.
awesome. You're awesome
We
as
eat
well.
it.
We eat. We eat.
We
Right?
eat.
We don't
Can't
eat
put
meat.
an itch on it. Damn it.
No,
I'm trying to be like the youngins, but I'm just not always doing the best. Like my daughter got something for her birthday and I was like, oh, that's so fat. And she's like, looked at me, oh, and I'm like, what? That means cool, right? And I look at her and my son and they're like, no, that doesn't mean cool anymore.
I'm
like,
not allowed to say the word Riz ever. And I was told when I referred to 11 and 13-year-olds as preteens that was the cringiest thing I've ever said in my entire life, by the way.
Oh, God.
So there's that. But until next time, remember, the best mom's a happy mom. Take care of you. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for stopping by.
Are you a parent in need of a laugh and a little escape? Look no further. Parenting is a Joke is the podcast you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm a stand-up comic and parent. And each week I chat with one of my top comedian pals who, just like you, are juggling careers, busy lives and schedules, and raising a family. You can expect candid stories, hilarious mishaps that happen on stage and at home, and just a lot of laughs. There's no expert advice here. Well, actually, sometimes a good idea does sneak its way in, but mostly just pure, relatable fun to remind you that we're all in this parenting adventure together. New episodes of Parenting is a Joke drop every Tuesday, so tune in, get ready to laugh, unwind, and maybe even feel a little bit better about your own parenting. Because sometimes that's exactly what your therapist, pediatrician, and bartender ordered. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform.